Hello, hello. Today is going to be a little bit different. We're kind of just going to look through some stuff today. I have been struggling a little bit on this patch. I have not given it the due diligence that I think I should have. This patch and last patch actually. So I'm like, oh, ever since like Dynamo meta kind of came upon us with like Amp coming back and stuff, I haven't really been as spoilers, because I got sick for a while, and so it kind of just like everything got derailed. But basically, what today is going to be is me kind of investigating the meta a bit and formulating a game plan for how I want to play the game on this patch, and depending on how the next few patches go, maybe the next few patches as well. So a couple things, and I guess maybe the point of this video, it's going to be pretty casual. It's not going to be like particularly scripted or particularly guided. I would say it's going to be a look into the process that I use when I start to try to get an idea of how exactly I want to play the game and what things I look at. This is generally accompanied with a whole lot of just like watching streams as well and looking at my own games and seeing what I'm struggling with. But this is just how I use stats and how I use things like play rates, how items are doing, units are doing, etc. to kind of shape how I want to play the game. This is not going to be for everyone either, for what it's worth. I tend to play the game a little bit differently than a lot of other top players, and that and just players in general, I guess, and that rather than like trying to solve the meta, I try to, like find answers to the meta, I would say. I try to find ways to play uncontested a lot, rather than trying to like optimize. For example, rather than trying to like look at this. We're going to start by play rate. This is going to be one of the big things we look at. But rather, so this being a play rate 0.27, right? This means a lot of people will probably play this from a lot of spots. Obviously, that's what play rate means. But for me personally, this means that I probably will not be playing this, and this will shape a lot of how I play the patch, and a lot of how I approach item economy and whatnot. Is that I probably don't want to play this because I know most games people are looking at this. Obviously this has to be context driven in some way. Some games there won't be a single person playing Marksman Vanguard, which is what this is. I don't know why it says Golden Ox, Peleos, and Leona because it's just Marksman Vanguard. But bad is to say that I probably won't be playing this a lot because I know it's going to be contested. Obviously, again, context is important. Sometimes it won't be, and in those situations, it's important to know how to play it. But generally speaking, I like to find things that will do well into the majority of the meta. I've talked about this before in like the Zed video, I think, and the Nefaria video and whatnot, but we'll probably do like a more detailed video on that eventually. But all that is to say that we're going to be kind of investigating how to find an answer to a meta in this patch, because I've been struggling a lot, actually. If you've been watching the stream at all, I've been like, I just had some weird games. I've like kind of stopped playing on stage 2 too much, because I feel like every time I win streak, I just lose, and I think it's probably item driven is the big thing. I think the places I'm going with my items on like, probably like get kind of into stage 3, and then like, early stage 4, I feel like I'm struggling in spots where I wouldn't normally be. So that is to say that we're going to fix that today, or attempt to fix that. This is going to be the first step towards fixing that. And you can jump along for the ride. So first things first, we want to get an idea of what the meta looks like. Obviously, I've played a lot of games. You probably played some games as well. But we're going to look at some stats a bit and just see what generally people are looking at, right? And so this should be pretty evident, I would say. And a lot of Marksman Vanguard are actually higher player rate than I expected compared to the other meta things, but I think Marksman Vanguard is a big one that you see a ton. Amp, obviously, there's like 2 or 3 people playing for Amp every game. It does say play rate 0.63, so some games there won't be, I suppose, but feels like it, right? Brand Nico, Exotech Zeri Sejuani, Anima Squad Zaya Leona. So, and then I think that some of the things to be looking at here is which units are really contested, right? So you can see already on this board, so it's just as far as like the first couple like very meta boards go. Leona, super contested, right? You can see even like Dynamo, MF, and Lee. She actually doesn't pop up here, but like Leona is a unit that is played here. You see her here, right? She is played. And so Leona is super hard to play around. And so what that means for me is that I likely will not be building a lot of things like Gargoyle, like gigantic tank items, looking to play around boards that require gigantic frontline tanks, because a lot of the time when you do that, you're looking to get on 1 or 2 units, which is Leona, or I would say Nico as well, outside of 5 costs. Like Zac obviously uses items super well as well, but you can't really reliably hit a Zac, right? And so any board that kind of like playing these frontline backline boards, like where you go like Rageblade, for example, like kind of ramping ones. You go Rageblade and like get a lot of value out of big tank items. It's gonna be really hard to play around consistently because there will be at least a few people angling for Leona in almost every game you're playing. And then similarly, right, Amp uses Nico, Brand uses Nico. I guess those are technically the only two things that use Nico, but like they're two very popular things, right, that use Nico. So you can see the other like kind of premier frontline tank is Sejuani, but the play rate for Sedge stuff is actually pretty low. The problem is that Sedge is on a lot of like kind of fringe boards too. So there's Sedge and Exotech, Zeri. This is like Zeri MF stuff, right, which is pretty popular. You will often actually, I imagine it will pop up here. I feel like maybe not. I feel like you see Sedge on this board sometimes, like Sedge Renekton or some stuff like that. Sedge will be in this if there's ever someone rerolling Morgana Poppy, etc. and stuff. There'll always be a Sedge obviously on Vex boards. Very important for that board. But also the play rate is much lower for that stuff. So like really not too shabby. First cash out as well. So as long as you keep an eye on like what the lobby's actually playing, you can pretty carefully play around what's going on and make sure that you're not griefing yourself by, hard angling towards like Leonas or Sedges or Nikos in spots where people are going to be playing them. And again, a lot of this is obviously you're looking at players right now. This is not necessarily going to be what it looks like every game, and I can't really drive this point home enough, and I'm going to reiterate it probably more than once. I already haven't reiterated it more than once, but TFT is very context driven. And so even though we're seeing that there are a lot of, people playing Leona and Nico, etc. in general, that won't always be the case game to game. And so this is just to inform, like, so this is like if there's any kind of anonymity to a person's spot on early stage 2 as I'm scouting, stage 1 as I'm looking at board, stage 2 as I'm scouting, I should have a good idea of what they want to be potentially playing towards, and this is what that is for. It's just kind of inform what people are looking at in general. Sometimes someone's spot will be more obvious. You can say like, okay, well, maybe someone's traditionally be playing Leona from this spot, but they actually have like TF pair, so they're probably actually playing, or that's not even say TF pair, they have like Navori Flicker Blade, so they're probably playing like TF reroll instead of Marksman Vanguard with like their Rage Blade Slam or Gargoyle Slam or whatever the hell. Stuff like that's important, but this is just to make sure that you have a good base and you have kind of a good way to play. Basically, what you want to slam early because you know where you want to head most games to default to most often be uncontested, especially if you'll ever like play off. I almost said off stream. If I ever play off stream, or if like you kind of just autopilot ever, just want to load up a game. It's important to make sure that your autopilot accounts for all of this, and this is just kind of doing it's like doing your homework for TFT. Okay, so that is to say, we can see that a lot of these frontline tanks really hard to play around. So likely, I think like the things that this would affect, and you can see that all of them actually have Gargoyle as BIS, right? And they hold Gargoyle better than any other unit in the game. Maybe, again, excluding Zac, but again, you want to hit Zac most games. And so that says to me that I am probably not ever slamming Rageblade or Gargoyle on early stage 2, because I don't want to hard contest this stuff unless I think I can go like super hard win on stage 2 without having to actually invest a lot of gold into it. I think that's kind of the name of the game this patch, is that trying to invest gold into streaks on stage 2, which is something that I tend to do, feels really bad. Feels really, really bad. I think part of that might just be that I'm, again, playing around the wrong things, and that's why we're doing this. But basically, I'm trying to guide my stage 2 in a way where like I'll get to less kind of obnoxiously annoying spots on stage 4 and whatnot. Okay. So, I'll keep looking at the plates a little bit. I mean, you can see that, like, everything else, it's a pretty diverse meta. There's a lot of stuff. It can all place pretty well. I think one thing to keep in mind is, there's actually, Vagar's doing okay. I wonder if, Nitro Vagar is doing okay at all. Probably not. The problem with Nitro Vagar is that it's really hard to hit at least 3 ever, but I guess you can actually hit at least 2 very consistently, so I might actually mess around with Vagar a little bit. Next thing I want to look at, though, in general, is what items do these boards want, right? So we already acknowledged that a lot of them want Gargoyle. And so there's a lot of solo frontline right now with big backline, which we'll come back to in a second, but it is going to shape how we want to look at the patch. So beyond that, you can see, this meta board really wants Rage. It says really wants Swords and wants Rage Blade, right? I think Crick Love, Sword, Bow. If it's a pretty heavy AD lobby, like a lot of these AD boards, the Zeri board too, I guess this one wants 2 bows, so maybe this one's a little bit more bow driven, but like you can definitely look at Last Whispers and stuff here too. Quick Glove is pretty high prio. Belt's obviously decently high prio for both of these boards. Tier is hard to get. You can see from these that Tier, Like this board wants Giga tiers, this board wants Giga tiers, tiers for this and tiers for this, ideally, right? Tier is hard to get right now. Sedge players want tier for their Sedge. Elise players, which Elise is, in my opinion, one of the big things that shapes this meta right now. Because Elise is just so strong through the early mid game. Even like Elise 2 in the late game is so strong that you really have to be aware of like what spots you can play Elise from, as well as who's playing Elise and whether you can play over streak or not because they're playing Elise. The amount of times I've lost to an Elise 1 and gotten completely caught off guard is they're innumerable at this point. I don't know if that's a word. I think that's immeasurable. Let's say that. So yeah, tier is hard to get, and so that is to say that if I'm ever in a spot where I feel like I want to play towards something that uses tier, and I don't have a tier already, I should be looking to lose stage 2, is what that tells me. And if I do that, like taking a tier is going to hurt a lot of players in the lobby, more than likely, more often than not. So if I am in a spot where I'm losing, I should almost always, in my opinion, play towards something that even wants tiers, because it's just going to actively hurt a lot of players. I think Crick Love can kind of act similarly. I feel like AD stuff is just more flex in general, and then not as reliant on items to actually stabilize the game early. A lot of these boards, like a lot of these boards require a mana generation item through stage 3 to actually play the game. Where these boards don't actually need the AD item; they can just play around the big tank and you have like one Rage Blade and a big tank, and you're chilling for a while. But tier's good, and so if I've identified that when I want to play from behind, and I think playing from behind feels a little bit better even on stage 2. I want to look for tiers, then I can kind of say two things, and this is going to be shaped a lot by my experiences over the course of the set, as well as what I like playing personally, because I think there's two things that I like to play a lot that use tier really well, and one of them is Zed. And you can actually see into the shape of this meta as well. I mean, look how Zed has a good matchup spread Zed has, right? This is solo frontliner, because Zed has a good matchup in like solo frontliners because he just gets on the back line and ends fights quickly by killing the things that do damage, and like leaving a bunch of frontliners alone. So he does poorly into things like let's say Graves, for example, that is just big frontline, like a big frontline like melee bruiser guy, but really good into stuff like Aphelios. I would say pretty good into Amp. The Amp matchup is a little awkward, but the thing about Amp, I say a little awkward. The reason why I say that is that if they have Samira 2, the Zed rather, if it goes on Samira 2 instead of Annie because you positioned wrong, it's a really hard fight. But if you go on Annie first, it's actually a really good fight. Because the problem is if he ults Samira 2, she'll just ult immediately. You give him a bunch of mana, then she heals to full, and you just start acting as a mana battery for the whole fight. Whereas Annie will die. But if there's Samira 1, it actually still dies. So I would say it's often a pretty positive matchup, but you get outcapped maybe when you're playing Zed. You might read into this. I do feel like this is often kind of beaten pretty well by Dynamo stuff in general. We'll get to that in a second, but we're talking about Zed matchups for a little bit. Zed into Nico Brand, I think similarly, pretty good matchup. It's like front line and back line. Zeri can be a little bit more awkward because she can get out of the way of Zed sometimes, but if you have tiers, which is this whole thing is like, if I'm losing when I want, and I have tiers, and I know I can play towards Zed pretty much, and this is like you don't have to play towards Zed with a tier, right? You can play towards like Vex and one I'll talk about in a second, which is Veigar, etc. Amp as well. But this is like me personally, I think I would feel really comfortable playing towards Zed and just feel very in control of my game, basically. So you have a lot of like playing behind, you should either look for one of two things. Generally, one more than the other. The one more than the other being you want to look for the open line, like the open meta line. But you can also just really look for something you're comfortable with that you think does well into the meta. Not to say that I wouldn't play Zed from Win Streak, because I 100% would, and I would say, generally speaking, plans in a meta are more... It's more important to understand what you want to play when you're kind of falling behind in a game or have a low roll opener than it is what you play from a high roll opener, because low roll opener games are going to be way harder to play, just in general. Yeah, and then so it does do well into this. You can just get it out sometimes, which is annoying, but it does really well into this. Same deal, right? You're just killing Xayah, you're killing Aurora. It can do really well into Elise. It can also do poorly into Elise, depending on where their MF is and whether Zed is jumping in their MF. If there's a lot of Dynamo players in the lobby, I would recommend for GA. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, generally speaking, I think, and this matchup is pretty good as well, I would say. It depends on how strong you actually are, whether you have like your Renekton or your Garen, how you have Senna 3 or not, etc. But I would say it's like pretty consistent into a lot of this stuff, and so it's something that I would like to play more often than I have been, because often I have not been playing that right now, and I should be playing it more, 100%. because it's something I'm comfortable with, something that I think does well into the meta, and is also uncontested, right? The only Zed board even on here is this one, which is just the Cypher board. Oh, actually, sorry, here, play rate 0.15, Zed Senna. Yeah, which, like, people don't play this as much as I think they should, and it does very well into a lot of things. And so other things I think I want to try defaulting, potentially. I want to try playing around some Vagar boards. I think Vagar Nitro has been strong for a while, and Vagar did get buffed, and I haven't really experimented with it at all this set, or this patch. So I think I want to try playing around some, like, Loose Streak into Vagar boards, potentially. I don't know exactly if that'll do well, but it kind of follows that same idea of, like, I can steal tiers early, and then I can use that tier to then play Nitro. I had a video on this. It's like on the How to Play Nitro video, where it's like Vagar with 2 Dynamo, and it's like at least 2 dual carry. I think it's very strong. I think it's very, very strong when you have a spot for it. And I think the spots for it are actually probably more numerous than I am giving them credit for right now. Aside from that, I probably will still play Nefiri because I think it has a good... I guess actually I don't even know. I think Nefiri actually has a pretty bad matchup spread right now, to be honest. I think it struggles into Martian Vanguard a lot, and it struggles into Amp a lot. Depending on if they have a Samir 2 or not, I suppose, and like Big Nico. It struggles into like big solo frontliners a decent amount, so I think I actually might lean away from playing any Nefiri at the moment. It's not something I think is actually super strong. So yeah, I think likely what I'll do is I'll probably try to play around that if I have, just, an open spot on early stage 2. I think in general, if I'm playing for a win streak, looking at this stuff, you can even look at items as well. There's something I actually want to show you that I looked at earlier that I think is important. If you can find a line that brings you to that uses Sterix well, which is actually why I think Zed is also very strong, is that a lot of things in Zed comp use Sterix well. Renekton, Garen, Zed himself uses it just fine. Jarvan all use Sterix well, and so this being so good is really great. It's being like kind of just an overtuned item right now means that the more you can slam this, the better. This one I was surprised by too, actually, the Adaptive Helm, that's being really good. And this is also like an item you can make on Vagar, item you can make on a lot of things. I'm actually curious what it looks like on Vagar. Okay, I don't think a lot of people play Vagar right now, so it's like Vagar stats are probably super fake. Yeah, it's a positive delta, but like tiny play rate that's not super great for actually getting a sample size that's meaningful. So yeah, that is to say, I think that's not a bad idea. I will say, so not only like playing those two things that I want to play, like those two things that I want to play do kind of like really need tiers, so it actually almost necessitates that I don't play stage 2 that often unless I have tier opener, and that's okay in my mind. I think that is something that's kind of like I've had a lot of games this set or this patch rather, where I felt like I don't want to be winning stage 2, and that's actually probably why, is that those are things I've been kind of gravitating towards a little bit in general, because I am more comfortable on them, and not Vagar so much, but like Zed in particular, and like even Vex a little bit, and I'm just not getting tiers while playing Win Streak, which is giving me really, really awkward item economy, and then I'm like also losing all of stage 3. Because I think another big part of this is that one of the best ways to actually win a stage 3 if you need to is to play around Elise, and Elise often really wants like a blue buff on stage 3 to like really be activated, and then you can play that into anything in the meta. So that is to say, I think Loose Streak gonna take tier off Carousel is really, really, really strong right now, likely, and will probably be shape how I play the patch quite a bit. So let's say I get dropped like I get to like tank items or something, right? Part of that can mean I scout and I see no one's playing Mars and Vanguard, and so I look into play that just by seeing how reliant these boards are on, like this board is, for example, on it. This board, it probably means that I want to make sure that if I have tank items, I'm like taking econ augments, making sure I have a ton of money, and then using those to get these big front lines for these big backliners. Yeah, I think let's see what other situations item wise can we account for in stage 2. So kind of generic items, like let's say you have a bunch of whatever, like a bunch of random stuff. Look for like open a bit, look for tier, and then play stage 3 out of tier. If you have bow, I think I would not slam Rage Blade in most spots unless I'm super high econ. I guess a lot of the time, if I'm playing for any... Yeah, I think if I'm playing for any kind of bow board like this, or even this, although maybe not so much this. I feel like there's enough Seri players where I'm a little worried about playing towards this, but I probably don't have to be. I guess more so that's like Diane or MF, but you can probably make a lot of different Zeri boards work, honestly. So maybe bow opener is totally fine to try to win off of. Because, if you're playing around bow opener, you're probably playing Zeri right now, I would say. or Felios, but I think Zeri is very consistent probably out of it. And so you can feel comfortable winning. The big thing is like what do you have? What tools do you have to win to actually win fights? And for Zeri and like Zeri in Felios' case, it's more so if you have a bow opener like a Kog'Maw, you want to try to win fights probably because like Kog'Maw 2 is going to be really good for a long time. Same with Tyr. If you have like if you have Tyr opener and you have like Elise, you probably win for a long time. I think Veigar can win for a long time too, and I think low key the way I want to try to crack the patch right now is playing around Veigar more and experimenting with it. And so I will try that and I will get back to you guys. I'll probably make a video about it if it works, or even if it doesn't. I mean, just come to stream if you really want to see it, because I'll probably play a lot of Veigar this week as I try to climb for Snapshot on Sunday. I think Sunday night's the Snapshot for the next tournament. So yeah, we'll see. So I think if we want to kind of consolidate what we've talked about so far, and this is all very general stuff, but I think it's important to keep your plan simple and your intuition will follow. So the plan kind of feels like, you know, if I want to play, I mean, it kind of feels like losing early stage 2 feels really good, right? Losing early stage 2 feels really good because you can get tiers, you can get bows, you can get kind of whatever you want. You can just react to the lobby better as well. Situations in which I'd be really looking to win stage 2, I guess bow would be a situation where I'd be looking to win stage 2 if I have like Skarner, Kog'Maw. I guess if I have like tier drop, then I'm down to like play around Elise. I think a big thing maybe is that I should be willing to slam Cute Cone. We should all be willing to slam Cute Cone. It has, Adaptive Helm. It looks really good in the stats, and it also is just a consistent way to actually like win your stage 3 and play around things like Elise better. And I mean, I think it's even fine on Vex and even fine on Annie. So definitely a slam and a way to like kill a cloak. It makes one tier opener actually feel pretty decent probably to just be slamming Cute Cone a lot more. Adaptive Helm a lot more. I think I want to be looking to play Zed a lot because it has a good matchup spread into this stuff, and I should be kind of angling for it more with more intent. And then I want to try testing out Veigar. I think that's a pretty good place to start where I'm at. And you can see where just like even looking at play rates can like really shape how you can approach a meta. Obviously, like if you have, this is all to say, this is like particularly when I'm having bad openers, by the way, because again, if you have really high roll openers, like you're like Rageblade Kog'Maw 2 Skarner pair with like Kayn pair or like a Silas 2 or some shit, you're just gonna win streak and it's gonna be an okay game, right? It'll be a fine game as long as you don't spend too much money, and necessarily it'll be fine. So this is really specifically for when I'm playing from behind, which is why I'm talking a lot about like losing early stage 2 and whatnot. But yeah, I think playing from ahead, it seems like, I guess playing from ahead, it's important not to play towards some of this stuff, maybe. Like the stuff that's like way more item reliant. Like, you probably don't want to play for like amp from ahead ever, right? Amp is almost certainly just something you play from behind. Kind of maybe the same with this, but maybe not. I think if you, I guess this is much more item flexible, so it's probably fine. Zeri, I don't know. I'll try out Zeri stuff and see if I like playing it from ahead. I mean, I think like ahead with bows just feels really good because there's so many ways to streak. I feel like ideally, if you want to play around AP, and I think this is outside of Veigar stuff, it's like just lose into get a tier into find an Elise, right? Should probably be the general game plan. And then also Cypher fits into all of this, and that Cypher is just broken and you should play it if you have it. So yeah, I mean, I think I have a much better idea of what the meta looks like now and how I want to play around it and some things I want to test. Hopefully that was helpful. I know it was a little rambly and a little you know, just not guided, but hopefully it was somewhat helpful. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll catch you guys later. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.